So it's 10 o'clock. We'll make a start and a few other people can join as they wish. So first of all, congratulations, because we have very high numbers register for our webinars and then they drop off. So you already have a growth mindset because you are doing what you said you were going to do. So well done. And I hope we're going to have a really good session here this morning with Shirley Palmer. So it's all about the growth mindset and what does that mean? What does that mean to you, and what does that mean to you in your everyday work or in your life, and how you adopt that in the day-to-day of your work and your work-life balance as well. So just to get started there, we're going to have Shirley with us today, who has come from the Glens of Antrim, originally reared on a farm, and has worked in London, Los Angeles, and California, around the world really, in private equity and in business development. And so it'll be a great session. Really looking forward to it. So yes, I am the head of entrepreneurship and women in business. If anybody hasn't met me, I tend to hang out in the entrepreneur space and run all the entrepreneur events. So if that's not your space, very welcome and lovely to meet you online, even though I can't see you. I know you're there. And just to quickly, before we get stuck into the content, to let you know just of other things coming up for us in the next few weeks. We are sort of at the end of our year in terms of our schedule, and we'll be publishing very soon our schedule for next year, so you can get booking those things too. So we have our Christmas social is just coming up on the 6th of December. That's in PwC in their, oh my goodness, if you've never been in there, and the amazing space they have upstairs. I was in it last week for an event. So we're actually nearly booked out. We're going to have to shut that down soon. So try and get in if you can. We've got Creating Joyful Spaces is online with Sharon and on the 7th. And that's a really interesting one, actually. It's all about decluttering and really important in your home, but actually really important in your workspace too. And you think it's common sense and it's just about making the time. But Sharon will give you really good tips on just how to be more organized, because clear space equals clear mind, I think is the theory. And we have our Women in Health and Wellness Roundtable. That's an online discussion group on the 12th. And we also just have released Just Connect Antrim on the 13th of December. So that's an in-person event, and it's actually in Mollusk Enterprise Centre. So if you are anywhere Belfast or south of Belfast, it's not too far to drive or handy enough for the motorway. And we've 3 speakers for that. We've Roisin Shanks from EY, on a panel with 2 entrepreneurs. One is a startup called Culchi, who's come up with a very innovative product for farming women. And the other is I Brand Everything, who has a sort of growth business in the merchandising space. So that will be a panel. So that's a nice one. It's nice to get out sometimes and meet people, guys, because I know it's not really the same online, and you always do come away from those feeling motivated and regenerated. So do push yourself. If you don't like networking, we take the pain out of networking and make it really relaxed, and just somebody will welcome you to be there if you're going on your own. So do use the opportunity. So if you just flick on there, Patrick. Yeah, so just to welcome Shirley, as I said, very worldwide international career, and Shirley will give you her background herself, but I am very intrigued by this topic. I think it's massive. I think it's massive as well if you're a parent raising children, and how we pass that mindset on, because we are constantly hit by hurdles in our life, in our work. We have bad days, we have hormonal days, and how you deal with that. And like, I have 2 teenage daughters, 15 and 17, who have been hit with hard stuff all the time now, and the competitive world that they're in, and how I even coach them. I have already adopted a lot of this myself, so I think it's very interesting. I don't know if anybody got the privilege last week of going to the conference. It was the ScaleX Summit, first time they've run it, and really very high level speakers. And I'm sure, I would think every one of them speaking there last week had a growth mindset for what they've achieved. But it was really loved hearing Stephen Bartlett-Derry, of a CEO. He has a podcast and book, and worth listening to those. They're in lots of different topics. But somebody with neurodiverse per background, who really has, his mum, he said, can't read or write, came from Africa on the plane, and what he's achieved. So how does he do that? Another great guy there, Jack Daly, he's a sales trainer, and has he's developed about 6 businesses to into national firms. But very interestingly, it also has done, I think the guy's now in his 70s, 74 or something, 93 marathons and 15 Ironmans. So I do really see sometimes a correlation between high achievers and high sports achievers too. So interesting, all very interesting topics. So and I did a wee Google search this morning, and Shirley, I'm sure I'm touching some of these of who are the people with growth mindset, and I was coming up with all the names, like, you know, Michael Jordan, Steve Jobs, Oprah Winfrey, Albert Einstein, J.K. Rowling, all people who have really had challenges, shown resilience, had difficult backgrounds, a lot of rejection, and how they've achieved things. So I know I certainly am not out to be an Oprah Winfrey or J.K. Rowling, but I think if we can adopt some of that mindset in our daily life, it can be very valuable to us. So Shirley, just welcoming you on board today to lead our session. So the way we'll work, guys, is Shirley will talk through, and she's going to share slides and talk through those and give you some of the theory and some of the practical tips as well, and we'll have a Q&A at the end. So I'd ask you just to use the Q&A as you think of things you'd like to ask, fire them in there. Please give me your name and your company just so we can see your context. If you prefer to do it anonymously, that's okay. So fire those into the Q&A, and we'll take the questions generally at the end. Shirley's going to do some wee polls throughout as well, just to get your feedback and see where you are at, and we'll hopefully have a good discussion on all of that. So I think that's all from me for now, and over to you, Shirley.
Thank you, Roisin. Really great to be here this morning. Good morning, ladies. And of course, to the back end team at Women in Business Northern Ireland. Thank you for inviting me along and supporting the rest of the ladies here. And if perchance we have a stray gentleman watching, of course, you are welcome too. As you will see, I've put on here a very lovely quote by Brené Brown: "What we know matters, but who we are matters more." I can't emphasize this enough. If this is one of the key things that you walk away with today, and just reminding yourself who you are, what you do, the relevance of that, the importance of that, and your uniqueness in the world, it's a really powerful tool. So most of you have already got your notebooks, pens, etc. out, your phones off, and if you need support, you can drop me a quick email, shirley@thesimpleseries.com or shirley@shirleypalmer.com. To give you a quick snapshot and an overview of what we're going to cover here today, is we're going to look at unveiling those different mindsets. So really looking at a fixed mindset, a growth mindset. What does that mean? What does that look like? We will cover the entrepreneur's mindset. And whilst I appreciate a huge majority of you may be here from the corporate world today, some others may choose to step in and listen later, or some of you that are in the corporate world are maybe thinking about creating that side hustle and starting that new business. So a few little added tips in there too. We'll run a poll quickly to get you to really think about, do you have a personal fixed or a growth? Do you realize that? We'll cover the science of mindsets. We'll talk about that personal resilience and overcoming challenges. We'll then do a further poll, look at some strategies for everyday growth, some success stories, and then, of course, the actionable steps, followed by the Q&A. So straightforward, simple. We'll whiz through, create enough time for you at the end to be able to come up with your questions. So in the meantime, if you've got some questions, feel free to drop them into the Q&A, and the back end team can pick those up, and we can be responding on those at the end of the session. For some of you that already know, Roisin's given a quick snapshot, but really despite this rather odd lilt of an accent, I am from Northern Ireland. Country lass at heart. You'll see me in my welly boots there. I love to be outdoors. I've done a radio show in the US to 500,000 business women. I've launched a health charity. I've written a book. Sometimes I kind of ask the question, what have I not done yet? So 2024 for me is all about new things, doing what really brings me joy and added happiness alongside the success. So as we start with unveiling those mindsets and really looking at, we tend to look at it from a viewpoint of growth versus fix and how those beliefs shape our reality. So those who typically adopt a growth mindset, so as you're asking yourself, who am I, which am I right now, you'll find these little traits throughout the session. that will help you understand that and through the polls. So with a growth mindset, you don't tend to see things as difficulties, as dead ends, but you see them as chances for that personal and professional development. So instead of looking at it as an obstacle or a hurdle, you see it as something as, okay, how can we move forward from this? What can we learn from this? And how can we switch it to another space? If you're sitting with that fixed mindset, so if you think about keeping everything in a box, rather than beyond that, what you're looking at is roadblocks and thinking, I can't do this because I'm not capable, or I haven't got the knowledge, I haven't got the expertise, I'm not smart enough, I'm not good enough. All those things that unfortunately we tend to hear an awful lot of women derogate themselves about and say what they're not capable of and what it is that they can't do. The interesting data around this is that it could be up to 70%. I'm going to repeat that. 70% of us start realizing our full potential because of typical things like self-doubt or that reluctance to embrace change and recognize that change really is the constant. Change happens every single day. So we have an opportunity every day to go from change to chance and opportunity, and how we move through that. So as you foster that growth mindset, you'll understand so much more about whether you're looking at an innovative startup, whether you're looking at shifting and changing your role within the corporate field, how you're engaging better with your teams. What it will help you do is really set your ambitions with new sites and goals as you look at moving forward with those. Actualizing your potential is really part of life's journey. It's part of why we're here. It's part of what we want to be doing. It's how we can find more joy every single day in what it is that we're doing and what our work environment is. So moving on with the entrepreneur's mindset. And again, as I said, whilst I appreciate we maybe don't have as many entrepreneurs in here, the one person that's really brought a whole other different mindset to this is Carol Dweck with her book, Mindset. Really, Roisin touched on this earlier. She talks about how you can fulfill your potential, but not just in business, but parenting, and also school, and also relationships. So if there's one book that you really want to go and read on mindset, I would definitely highly recommend that. She says that really entrepreneurs are the people that exemplify growth mindset in every single way, because entrepreneurs typically look at every single challenge and go, okay, how do I turn this into an opportunity? How do I take this failure and turn it into a lesson? So one of the people I think that did this really, really well was Sarah Bakley, who did the Spanx journey. And most of you ladies, whether you've bought a pair of Spanx yourself or whether you've bought them as a gift for someone else, you'll be aware of her journey and her story from that viewpoint. So she didn't have a fashion brand. She didn't have, as a background, she didn't have a business background, but basically she built this amazing undergarment in order to support women feel better about themselves, and has created this amazing global empire, overcoming all the rejection. You know, she would go to investors, she would be constantly looking at, okay, where could you get funding, what have you, and they kept turning her down, turning her quotes on her mugs. But she used every single setback as a catalyst for development. She understood that her success was really much more about the resilience and the willingness to learn about her innovative idea, and how that in itself became the cornerstone of her own entrepreneurial success from that viewpoint. Taking those obstacles, turning them into stepping stones, and allowing herself to dream as big as she really wanted to, so that she could create the dream into a reality. So if you're sitting today and thinking, okay, I want to shift another layer in my career, if you're thinking I want to create a side hustle, if you're an entrepreneur and you're looking at how you can build your brand more globally, or let's say you're only just in Northern Ireland and you want to expand to the south or to the mainland. Again, allowing yourself to step into that mindset of possibility and growth will be the core thing that will support you on that process. She's a great example. So if you've not looked up her story, you might want to grab one of the YouTube videos or a TED Talk or something on that ilk and just learn how fascinating the challenges were that she went through. Again, this is, you'll always find I love quotes, and I love peppered quotes, and I especially love quotes where possible by women. I think our society always ends up feeling that it's the men in business that's supporting the knowledge and sharing it. But as Carol Dweck again said, love challenges, be intrigued by mistakes, enjoy effort, and keep on learning. So that process as a with a growth mindset to be a lifelong learner will be the core thing that's going to support you in that process. So we're going to step into a quick poll. I know it's early on, but I think it's a good time to just give you a sense and feel of what does that look like? What does that feel like? So we've got the 3 questions coming up for you. You just simply go through and tick which one. So the first one we're looking at is receiving constructive criticism at work. So again, it doesn't matter whether you're an entrepreneur, you're in the corporate world, and it doesn't matter if you're the boss, because sometimes even as the boss, you end up with that criticism coming your way. So just tick the box, either A, for feel attacked and dismissed by the feedback, or B, view the feedback as an opportunity to learn and improve. Second one is facing a difficult task. So your option A is avoid the task due to fear of failure. You might even procrastinate in that. You might just want to keep putting it off and think, actually, I don't really want to do that. Or option B, you embrace the challenge and break the task into manageable steps. 3, maybe you're looking at learning a new skill. Maybe you're looking at upskilling, learning something new, something that's going to support you in your role, something that helps you step into maybe a new position within the business. And again, do you get frustrated quickly and think that this isn't really for me? Or do you persist and understand that mastery comes with practice and time? So just giving you a moment there to go through, respond with your answers, and then the team can come back and give me an indication of what we've got on A's and B's. And again, as we mentioned earlier, if you do have any questions, feel free to drop them in the Q&A and we will pick them up later. Okay, so interesting. So this is very interesting to look at. So as you can see, out of the audience that have covered this, we can see 18% have gone for option A on number 1, and 82% have gone for option B. So the 82% of you that are out there, congratulations, you do have a growth mindset if you chose option B. For those in option A, this is a great opportunity for you to be able to look at this and flip this from a viewpoint of how would that shift, how would that change, what can you do, looking at the tools as we suggest later on from that viewpoint as well. And question 2, again, the answer was option B was the growth mindset. So 73% of you said that you would embrace the challenge, break the task down into manageable steps, and get it done. Whereas 27% of you said that you might avoid that task just because of failure. The one thing I would say about failure is many people get this underestimated. Failure is just a stepping stone on the road to success. So it does not limit you. It does not frame you. It does not put you into any other space. In fact, there's people out there that will say the one thing you constantly need to do is fail, because when you keep failing, then you realize what it is that you're really, really good at and what you really, really love. And therefore you've got a different level of success from that perspective. We've got one more question there in the poll as well. Do we have the results of the third one as well, the third question?
Shirley, if you just scroll down to the bottom, the third one is on that tab.
Okay, thank you. So on the last one again, learning a new skill, persisting, understanding that mastery comes with practice and time. 74% of you have got a growth mindset, 26 haven't. So interesting results to see how you are. I wasn't expecting it to be perfectly honest, I wasn't expecting it to be any different. I'm really pleased to see that, 73, 74, 82%. So I think from that viewpoint, that is absolutely excellent. Well done, folks. And let's hope those and the other things can marry up with some of the others as we step forward. So now we're going to look at the science of mindsets. And listen, I could sit here all day and go over this in great depth and detail around the neuroplasticity, but in simple terms, this is where psychology meets biology. So our brain's ability to change and adapt, known as neuroplasticity, is really at the heart of growth mindset. So when you think about growth mindset, it's really what you're doing is you're putting those new layers into the brain where you're constantly learning. The brain is probably still known as the most amazing computer on the world, in the planet right now, because scientists have still not fully identified the full capability of us as humans. So again, never underestimate your own capabilities. Until you've tried, you really don't know. So every new skill that you're learning, that will strengthen your brain, it will strengthen the brain's networks, it'll underpin your capacity to have that lifelong learning and adaptation. The one caveat I'm going to put in there is, remember, you've got to ask yourself what you're feeding it every single day. And probably the biggest challenge that we're all faced with at the moment is television, media, Netflix, news, so much information out there right now that is extremely negative, which is it's not a great imprint to be sharing with you. So you've got to be diligent, you've got to be discerning, you've got to understand what it is that you're actually feeding yourself on that day-to-day basis to show that you're keeping yourself in that growth mindset. Because when we put ourselves into that negative vibration, the challenge is associated with how do we move forward from that space and place. So again, the reminder that our mindsets are formed really, really early on. So when we look at, for those of you that are already mums or you're thinking about motherhood, again, there's a huge piece in there around parenting, how you look at parenting, how you support your children, how you really look at a growth mindset with them to support them in that dynamic. And not telling them you can't do that because you're not smart enough, you're not good enough, you're not capable. And actually, I'm going to share a really funny one really with you, and a really silly one. So I did the 11 plus back in the day when you did, and my school of choice was Lawn Grammar School. And my mother said to me, honey, don't worry about it, you won't get it, you're not smart enough. So, when your own mother tells you that, you kind of laugh and giggle, really. But the reality was, I did go to grammar school. I really, to be honest, I really didn't like it because I didn't understand the dynamic of regurgitating information and passing an exam. It just wasn't, to me, it wasn't the right thing to be doing in education. I wanted the practical aspect. Sadly, again, I was also bullied at grammar school, which really didn't help either. So I probably was a bit more of a quiet little mouse at that particular point in time too. Not today, needless to say. But what I did do is I flipped that when I realized, you know what, this is not for me. I'm not going to stay and do my A levels. I need to do something else. So I went to the local technical college and I did a business course. And I completely whizzed through that because for me, it was practical, it was real, it was tools to be using in the world. It all made sense. So in that space, I'd already realized I tapped into my own growth mindset of, oh, this is what's possible. This is what interests me. This is what I'm intrigued. And that took me on my journey into the business world and starting out in private equity. So again, don't be aware and be conscious of what it is, the language that you're sharing and saying with your children, but also what you're saying with yourself and also what you're saying with your colleagues, because it's really, really important. You know, just ask yourself, is this real? Is this true? Can I say this in a kinder way? Be a little bit more thoughtful about that process. So we've all got, I touched on it earlier, we've all got amazing innate gifts or talents. Find it quickly. If you haven't already found it, find it quickly. That will also help nurture your growth mindset and turning those challenges as they present, because we're all going to deal with challenges, hopefully not every day, and hopefully less and less as you get older. You'll start to understand, how do we let these things go, but turn them into learning moments instead. The one most powerful thing out of understanding the neuroscience behind this is the adaptability to change. So we can, no matter what happened in your past, no matter what environment you've come from, and as Roisin alluded to earlier, when we talk about Stephen Bartlett, he's only recently come out and shared a little bit more of his history, and having, as for some of you that follow his Diary of a CEO podcast, he's always interviewing different people, and it's like he's living his life journey through the diary and through doing the interviews and learning from each of these individuals about what else he should do. And a recent podcast, it was suggested that he potentially has ADHD, and he's gone and subsequently tested himself. So, you know, now he's understanding, oh, I'm neurodiverse, I've got something else, but he's not treating it as a label. He's just recognizing this is a tool. I like to look at them and say, it's another gift. How do we learn from that? How do we move forward from that space and place? But also recognizing you can rewire your thinking and switch those old patterns into new patterns. So it's 67 days to make or break a habit. If you think about between now and the end of January, you have the opportunity to shift and change from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. It's about that dedication, that practice, that resilience. And if you think of it in a really simple way, one of my mantras for life has always been think it, feel it, do it. So conscious of how you think about it. How does that feel? What's the somatic response in your body? And then what action are you taking to do that? That will really help you understand you truly are the architect of your own mindset, and the opportunities are endless. It's all about choice. Okay. Resilience. People often underestimate resilience, I think. And I think the one thing about Northern Ireland, I will always say, is we're a very resilient society, given the nature of the various different things that we've gone through over the years. It goes beyond recovery. It really helps focus on the growth and the learning from the adversity that we've all faced and what that looks like. So this trait is really vital to make sure that you come out stronger every single time. And it's a skill that you can really foster. So again, it will support your mental health, and it will to better life comes. Understanding self-care, I would say, has to be a number one priority. No matter what career you're in, if you don't look after you first and foremost, you can't actually look after anybody else. So please, again, I just implore you, as you go through and you're assessing and reflecting and thinking about what you're doing, and it's coming up to a year end, make sure that you're looking at 2024 and making self-care definitely a top priority to help and support you. So developing that resilience is a little bit like building a new muscle. So no different from going to the gym, but basically what we're looking at is a brain gym in that sense. So involving that self-compassion, that adaptability, and making sure that you've got effective stress management in what it is that you're actually doing. It doesn't just help you endure those tough times, it also gives you the ability to springboard through for your added personal growth. So depending where you're at, depending what you're looking at, again, as we talked about, if you're looking at a new position, if you're taking on a new leadership role, if you're thinking, do you know what, maybe I want to backscale my position right now and I want to go back to 3 days and I want to create a side hustle and step into the world of entrepreneurship, you've got that ability to be able to do that when you understand the importance of utilizing that resilience and cultivating it. It will help shift you through every single challenge that you're going to face through your life. Most of the ones Roisin and I were just talking a little bit earlier on is at the start. And, you know, I was saying in passing, I was attending a funeral on Saturday. And this amazing individual was 96 years of age. And you think, you know, in today's society, to be able to get to 96 and to live a really well-lived life is fantastic with good health and that mannerism. And this gentleman was very lucky to have most of that until the last 6 years. We see around us, I think it always seems to be coming up to Christmas time, we seem to be dealing with a lot of loss on an annual basis. And part of it might be the winter months, part of it may be other ailments and illnesses that people have endured for a period of time. But again, those are all part of life's journey, and we're all going to experience different emotional aspects and responses to each of those. So having that resilience to really understand it's part of the journey, and to give us that ability to thrive despite the fact of the complexity that life's tapestry presents itself in that mannerism. So we've got to address the negatives as well as the positives. We can't live in just a positive bubble. We've got to look at what's real in that process as well. So now we're going to take the next poll. And here we're really focusing on how you look at your own interpersonal dynamics and the resilience, as we've just talked about. So the first question is, if you haven't succeeded at something on the first try, how are you going to respond? So are you going to give up because you believe that you're not capable, you haven't got that ability to do it? Or are you going to analyze what went wrong and adjust your approach and then try again? Second one is, if you're seeing a colleague succeed, you know, how do you feel about that? Does the little green-eyed monster come out? Do you feel a little bit envious or jealous? Do you feel threatened by their success? Or do you actually feel inspired by what they've done? And can you learn from their experience? The third one is working on a group project. Do you tend to stick to what you know and avoid taking risks? Or do you openly collaborate, share ideas, and be willing to take risks and try some new approaches? So 1, 2, and 3, option A or B. Let's see how you come up with your responses and what those look like. Quick, simple tick of the box, A or B. And let's see what those results look like. Okay, interesting. So we're shifting and moving a little bit more on our fixed mindsets and growth mindsets. So, of course, not succeeding something on the first try. If you're going to give up, you've got to ask yourself why, and is there a reason for that? So, for those of you that went with option A, believing that you don't have that ability to do it, maybe ask yourself who told you. Was it a school teacher? Was it one of your colleagues? Did someone say you're just not good enough, not smart enough, not capable? And here's the reality: most people can do most things. Again, it's about being able to put your mind to it, being able to look at it as an opportunity and a possibility to do. Second one is a difficult one because we've all got to go through that emotional journey and understand more about our own emotional intelligence. Again, if that's something that really interests you, I think I've probably recommended a book on the added notes associated with that too. When you understand that your thoughts and your emotions are yours and not someone else's, and therefore whatever they think or whatever they do is relevant to them, you can lead from a new level of leadership and that mannerism. And actually, to understand that you can learn from someone else's experience is a really powerful tool. That's why you have people like me showing up and sharing Mindset Mastery, because I've gone through those challenges. I've gone through those hurdles. I've faced so many things. It's really important to be able to say, do you know what? From my experience, it's better not to do this because here's how you could do X or Y instead, and it makes life a little bit simpler and easier rather than going through the pain and challenges of something more difficult again. And then the third one, working on a group project. Not everybody has the interest to work in teams. I know some people like to work more on their own as such, but it is good from time to time to be able to look at working together in a team and actually being able to understand the different dynamic that actually comes across there. This is especially good in businesses where you have various different teams for different projects and how you're looking at things, and actually also bringing different individuals into the team that wouldn't normally be in the team, because then you're getting a different layer and concept and idea from someone else that wouldn't naturally be in that team. So good to juggle around, good to look at in your teams. Have you got that growth mindset culture? How is the business steering towards a growth mindset culture? Is there anything else within your business that you could be doing? So 87%, 81%, 94%, pretty awesome results. So well done, ladies. That's quite impressive.
And I think, Shirley, what's interesting there, I mean, I think it's hard maybe to answer, are you A or B? Because I think a lot of people, you know, if you think about even seeing a colleague succeed, you would be delighted for them, but you might be a wee bit jealous too, but you know, and you can have both feelings, I suppose, at the same time, you know, or if you're in a competitive race and you're beaten by the person you normally beat, or, you know, whatever it is you do as well in your personal life. So I think you can sometimes have a bit of both, which wasn't a sort of an option open there, you know, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree with you totally, Roisin, but it's as you understand your emotional intelligence more, you'll understand whether that pulls as a trigger or not. And it's identifying if it pulls as a trigger. And then it's identifying if it does pull of a trigger, why is this pulls of a trigger? And what is the purpose of that trigger? And helping you to understand, because the reality is, as you say, we should just be really, really happy for them, and that should be it. But there are times when that little monkey mind pops in and goes, oh, you know, I could have done that, or I could have done that better. And it happens, and that's okay. So it's being able to understand that you can be okay with that and still recognize, okay, but I'm still going to focus on being in that growth mindset rather than the fixed one. Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up.
Good. Yeah.
So some of you probably know Simon Sinek. Again, if you follow him on LinkedIn, he's always doing his little mini snapshot videos, which I really enjoy. And this, again, is a great reminder for all of us, I think, in so many different layers and levels. Working hard for something we don't care about is called stress. Working hard for something we love is called passion. If you're still not sure about what you want to be doing, I encourage you, explore. Find some other people in your team that can help and support you. Guides, mentors. There's huge opportunities. I'm sure Roisin has a list of people that she could probably point you in the direction of that could support you in many different ways in that mannerism. So moving on to strategies for everyday growth. Really what we want to look at. So now that you've really thought about it, now that you've done a couple of polls, now that you've understood whether you're fixed or growth and actually you want to move into that growth space, what's really important is looking at what those daily practices are in order to nurture a growth mindset. So it's something that you need to understand. It's not an occasional thing you do, but a habitual thing we do. As I said earlier, it takes 67 days to make or break a habit. So if you were to start today, by the end of January, you should be in a space and place where you're automatically doing some of these things. And there you'll start to see the added shifts and change and the added growth in your own personal lives and your business lives as well. So one of the clear things I tend to use, and remember, these are all in my opinion, and these are things that I've used from my own perspective over the years and also shared with many clients. So the first one would be about really setting that clear intention of how your day is going to play out. What does that look like? And if any of those challenges do come along, to basically be able to look at them as an opportunity to learn or a obstacle to springboard from, instead of seeing it as a negative, how do we turn that into a positive? Then when you're faced with the obstacles, so let's say you have an obstacle of a particular individual on your team today that's not performing and you're trying to figure out how am I going to deal with this, and they're a challenging individual and this is all really difficult and I don't really want to be addressing this. So what you do is you take an extra moment to really reset that perspective of what it is you've just told yourself. Because again, this is what you're telling yourself. You're alluding to what you think the result is going to be on the basis of the framework of your previous experience, rather than actually, what can I learn from this experience? And can I shift this into a more coherent, mindful communication that actually not only supports the individual, but actually supports you as the team leader in that mannerism? So again, in the same vein, one of the good things to do is really look at seeking out feedback, not as a form of criticism. I always say criticism can be phenomenally constructive. And therefore, what we really need to see is that feedback can be a valuable insight, and that will really help you move forward as you're looking at your journey. So let's say, for example, you're attending some of the board meetings, and maybe someone at the end of the board meeting gives you some added observations of how you respond, how you manage things. Maybe that those times when you maybe jump in a little too fast and haven't actually waited and let the person completely finish. It's a very natural thing to do, but over time you can adjust that quite quickly and quite easily. It's about being an active listener rather than someone who's automatically wanting to defend. So think about that active listening as part of that tool to be able to utilize that as well. At the end of each day, I think what's really good as well is to dedicate time for reflection. So, you know, if you finish your day at 2:30 or 4 or 5 or 6, scale that back 10 minutes or even 5 minutes to start with, and just really look at that reflection of the day. Acknowledge what's gone through the day, acknowledge your own personal progress, look at maybe some new areas of growth, what you've done, what you've achieved, the positives, the negatives. And it's just that awareness of an added reflection that can be such a powerful tool to take you into the next day? Or, you know, could we have managed that better? Could we have done that better? How could we improve upon this? And this is very applicable again for entrepreneurs, or you've got a business model, or your customer service, and or a particular product, or your packaging. All those things can be relevant in the same context. You can marry it up in a different way, and you could be asking your clients for added feedback. Or again, if you're an entrepreneur and it's a product that you're providing, you could be looking for added feedback around your product and what that actually looks like. And that's how most businesses really look at improving their services, their products, by constantly asking their clients, what could we have done better? How could we improve upon this? What would make a difference for you? And we touched on this one a little bit earlier, celebrating the successes. So again, what most people don't necessarily do is look at, it doesn't matter how small that success is, celebrate it, celebrate the pants out of it. Because number one, it's going to create a positive vibe, more positive energy. Number two, you're seeing what else you've achieved and what else you've done. And every stepping stone, every milestone takes you from A to Z on the plan of what it is you want to achieve. So you've got that big, long dream, that big idea, that big concept. You need to reverse engineer it, but you've always got stepping stones along the way. Celebrate each one. Not just the achievements themselves, but also the effort and the learning that you learned along the way. So all of these practices, you know, even if you choose one of these practices to start doing and do them for the next 67 days or till the end of January, you'll find that they're actually quite profound. And you'll start to see how your own mindset shifts and changes. You'll start to see how your learning has shifted, your performance has shifted. Maybe not just academically, it could be professionally. It could also be in your own life. It could be in your relationships. It could be with family. So it's really important that we think from that viewpoint of, we can be lifelong learners and achievers. It doesn't matter what age you decide to want to go. You know, you might want to go back and do a degree. You might want to go and do an MBA. There's absolutely huge opportunities to do all of these, no matter what age it is. So don't see age as being the barrier in any shape or form. So now let's look at some success stories around this as well, which I think is really important to understand.
Shirley, we've just 12 minutes left, so maybe just want to keep some time for questions. So
yeah, almost there. So if we look at these success stories, really, it doesn't matter whether you're looking at students who understand that how their mindset can expand, how they can work better with their peers. Again, whether it's in business, whether it's leaders, they're actually promoting that growth mindset culture, as we talked about earlier. I'll jump on for that. There'll be added notes in the schedule on that. The last slide really is about those actionable steps. And to be honest, I've already discussed some of these. So if this is the one thing, again, you just walk away with, then it's important to do that reflection, that acknowledgement, understanding what your own mindset's at. Where are you in your journey? How can you shift? How can you move? Looking at moving forward, setting those goals. So maybe look at 2024. What's the goals that you want to achieve, you want to learn? How often are you stepping outside of your comfort zone and facing some of those new challenges? Looking at that resilience aspect and developing strategies, learning from criticism, helping you to move forward, and celebrating those success for others. As Eleanor Roosevelt said, life was meant to be lived, curiosity must be kept alive. One must never, for whatever reason, turn their back on life. So see life as the journey that it is, tap into the growth mindset, and really allow yourself to empower yourself into a whole new way that you never thought was possible. Thank you very much.
Brilliant, Shirley. Thank you so much. You got through a lot there.
Yes.
Just 10 minutes, so we'll get a wee chat here. So We've got Sarah asking, how do I reconcile a growth mindset in work with a fixed mindset in personal life and family? I find some of these questions more difficult to answer when applied to a personal context. So I suppose it's juggling all the roles if you're a mum at home, kids, and dealing with children as well. Any thoughts on that, personal life and family?
So I think that the one thing to really understand with this is you've got to see it actually as all one, rather than actually seeing it as a split and seeing it as two different things. If you're already in a growth mindset in work, look at what tools you can learn from that to actually apply into your personal life and dealing with your family, rather than being more regimented around putting yourself into a box. How you decide to raise your family, live your family life, again, is up to you. We've all seen it over the years where parents, grandparents are always going to try and tell you, oh, but you should do this and you should do that. You've got to remember they are working from their experience and their experience only, so what they were taught and what they were told. So it's not keeping that open mind and being able to be more pragmatic around new learning, new tools, new skills are definitely out there. And especially I would encourage you to really look at some of the aspects around parenting with that growth mindset, because it's a really, really powerful tool, very positive.
Yeah, I think, Shirley, in the practical level, I kind of get this question because, you know, in work, I'm about positivity and I'm about boundaries and how I speak up to people. And I take a pause and, you know, we have a behavior, and then you suddenly are in the craziness of home and your child has, you know, stolen their phone and is in bed at 11 o'clock at night under the covers, Snapchatting people. And it's like, give me that phone. And, you know, so, you know, and how you step back and sometimes having to put in things like agreements. Okay, we're going to spend time together. You're not going to do this. You'll get rewards. So I think in actual terms, it's harder. So
it can be, but if there's, you know, that bringing that kindness, bringing that compassion, and bringing some mindfulness to it. It's not, I'm not going to say it's easy. It takes practice. There's no question about it. It takes practice.
Them, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Could we make an agreement, etc., etc.?
Yeah.
So, yes, any other questions here then? Yeah. Oh, the reflections from Olympic includes achievements, growth, awareness, improvements. Is there another point I missed? Oh, I think that was maybe... It's just that was quite recent there.
Okay.
Is there another point missed there?
I'm not sure, to be honest.
Sorry,
not sure on that one.
How do I overcome procrastination as someone with OCD? Feels overwhelming.
Okay. Procrastination is a powerful one, but again, the question is asking yourself, well, why are you procrastinating in the first place and why are you putting it off? Typically, people put things off that they think they can't do, they're not good enough, they're not capable of, and that is because, again, they put themselves in a fixed mindset. The best way to go over the procrastination is actually to just go and do it, but do it by breaking it down into manageable steps. Once you break it into manageable steps, you'll suddenly get it done. Once you've got it done, it's like, oh my goodness, I got this done. I got it done in this time frame.
You always feel it was so much easier than you thought it was going to be once you start. Yeah. So yeah, I have that at the minute with doing my self-assessment for them.
And if you've also got that OCD as well, and then you're starting to see that sense of overwhelm, you know, breathing, simple breathing exercises, really to just bring you back to the present moment, be present, be here, be now, and just really recognizing, okay, what do I need to do? What's important? What I often talk about is MITs, the most important tasks. So 3 to 5 every day. And if one of those is that you have to pick up the phone to your mum, your dad to check in with them because they're not doing well, then that's what you do. Focus on doing the key. We all have lists, whether we say we've got lists and we haven't got lists, we've all got lists. But bringing forward what's the key things that need to be done and need to be addressed, and getting them done. One of the things we mentioned earlier really quickly is around timing. If you're working on a project and if you spend 45 minutes on a project with 0 distractions, you'll get more done in that time than what you would in 2 to 3 hours. So for those that want to work smarter and better, turn your distractions all off. If you've got a child that's sick, you can put on your phone the school number into your favorites, and then that can jump through. But everything else, you have 0 distractions, finish what you need to do. You'll be surprised how you can achieve so much more.
It's very good advice. I think women particularly, we used to think multitasking was a good thing. Multitasking is not. Focus on one thing at a time and you'll be far more efficient, and then stop and then get on to the next thing. And I am a terrible woman for it too, trying to put on a wash while making the dinner, while helping a child with their homework, etc. So yeah, an interesting one about teams, and some people on here will be leading a team, and obviously a team can be very fixed and there's habits, and it's a bit the same as what you grew up with and how you change them. So a question here from Teresa Bradley: how do you try to change a fixed mindset management team?
I would say in simple terms, the reality of this, internally it might be difficult. Probably what you want to be doing, Teresa, is hire someone like me to come in and give you the pointers to be able to do that. Having dealt with many management teams through private equity and subsequently in my business consulting over the years, every team is different. People have their thought processes of how it should work, but actually what you do find, one of the tools that I've used in the past is, and I did this locally with a family run business, was I did individual interviews with every single person to evaluate where their thought process was, what did they want to do, where did they see the business going, their role within the business and what that looked like. It was done in a mannerism that whilst I had all the knowledge, nobody else got the knowledge. They got a summary knowledge document afterwards, and that was quite revealing actually to see where people were.
Sometimes you just have to step back and review and engage everybody, because there's so many different opinions and personalities in that whole piece. So it'd be a bigger piece for you. Teresa.
But it can be done. So don't think it can't be. It can be done.
I'm just conscious of time. Padraig, would you share the wee QR code if people wouldn't mind giving us some feedback? Obviously, we're constantly planning well ahead, different events. So it's lovely to hear your feedback. That's just a really quick 1 minute, to be honest, and just any comments in terms of this session today. And obviously it will be online and available for anybody who's a member. You can see it. Shirley, it's been a brilliant discussion. I think we could probably talk, I have loads of questions. We could probably talk for an hour, and just, how you maintain this in your head. And I think we're probably all maintaining this today. And I think it's sometimes, when something happens, think before you speak, and just take in the moment, take in what's happened, breathe it in, accept what's happened and how you react. And sometimes I know myself, I react sometimes much too quickly to things. And I've been working on that for a while, and just trying to listen and respond slower, so that I embrace the growth mindset and not the negative sort of natural crisis reaction. That is part of me. So yeah, guys, if you just wouldn't mind filling that in, we will be sending out, sharing with you. Shirley has kindly written a bit of a document to share with you with recommended books and things, and we will share those with you after the session. So so that's fantastic, and thank you to everybody for coming, and to Shirley for our brilliant presentation. And I think you have the links as well on your document, that if anybody wants to follow up with you afterwards, that they can do. And hopefully we'll see you at some of our Christmas gatherings. Get the sparkly top on, and December is incredibly nearly here. So thank you to everybody today.
Thank you everybody for attending. Much appreciated. Thank you, Roisin.